Carl Green, please welcome to the lectern. Carl.
Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Today, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Today is a day for inspiration and looking forward, but also reflection and looking backward. But not looking backward to dwell on the past, but rather, how do you mark your journey if you don't know where you've been and where you started? Even Dr. King started his speech by looking back 100 years to the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. Today we've already covered half that distance, 50 years, since he delivered his speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. And today Cheryl Ketchens is going to talk about Dr. King's speech. Today she's going to ask us to think about the last 50 years. Have we realized Dr. King's dream of equality and freedom? For the next 5 to 7 minutes, Cheryl's going to use posture and gestures to enhance her speech. She works on Competent Communicator Project 5, Your Body Speaks. She also has some personal speech goals, not relying on notes too much, and to engage us through audience participation, and to get each of us to think about this speech. Have we realized the aspiration of Dr. King's dream? Please help me welcome Cheryl Ketchens to the lectern as she presents her speech entitled, I Have a Dream.
It's almost afternoon, so I'll say good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. Today marks the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream, now famous. Let's go back to when it all started. The year is 1862. President Abraham Lincoln writes the Emancipation Proclamation. The American Civil War is going on. It's into its third year. The president is frustrated. He wants to end the war. He wrote the speech, actually, in 1862. It was signed into law when the Confederates would not comply with coming back to the Union. It was signed January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation went into place. It freed approximately 3.1 million slaves at that time. 10 states that were still in rebellion their slaves were set free. Their slaves were set free. The ones that were part of the Union, their slaves were still slaves. So everybody thinks the Emancipation Proclamation freed and allowed rights for all slaves. That is not true. It was for a portion of the slaves. It was for those that were part of the states that were still in rebellion. Let's fast forward to the year 1963. In the spring of 1963, we have Dr. Martin Luther King, who's on the scene. Dr. Martin Luther King actually started some of his activism in the early 50s, or the mid-50s, excuse me. So in 1963, the spring of 1963, he decides to get a group of his followers together, and they are going to do a march, a peaceful march on Washington, D.C. So we're on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, where approximately 200,000 people have gathered to hear Dr. King's speech, now a famous speech. Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. What does that mean? What does that mean to us? Think about it. What does it mean? Now, there's part of that speech that really, really resonates with me. As a mother, as a grandma, when he talks about his dream of his 4 children being one day judged on the basis of their character rather than the color of their skin. You hear what I'm saying? He wants his children to be judged for their character and not the color of their skin. That resonates to me because I want you to close your eyes for a moment and let's go back to 1963. Everybody, come on, close those eyes. The year is 1963. You're You were a child, but now you're an adult. You found a home, your dream home. It's in the state of Louisiana. This home is everything you've ever dreamed of. It's white, it's huge, it has black shutters on it. It has a veranda that wraps around that envelops the entire home. It has the white wicker rockers sitting on the front. It's lined with the oak trees that is the alley for that home. You could hear it sits on 100 acres, and you can hear the birds chirping in the distance. And you can see the cows in the pasture and the horses. Can you see them? They're there. Now, let's look at, you've got your dream home. You've gone to the bank. The bank has already approved your loan. So you're all set there. You have a large down payment. So you just know that this home is yours. Every day you drive by this home and you look at it and you know it is going to be your home in just a short period of time. Now let's imagine, while ours is still closed, that the bank, the realtor that you have been working with for several months before you get to see that home with the realtor and really go through that home and make it yours. And the realtor finds out that you're Jewish. Okay? You're Jewish. So the realtor decides on their own that they're going to block your having that home. That home will not be yours. Now I want you to open your eyes. Now can I have one volunteer, at least one or two, tell me what that feels like to be blocked from having that home of your dreams. You've envisioned it, you drove by it day after day, you knew it was yours. You just knew it was going to be yours. And now the realtor has found out that you are Jewish and they're denying you access to that home. How does that feel? Someone tell me how that feels to be denied?
Discriminating.
Dehumanizing.
Devaluing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Devaluing.
Now let me tell you a brief story. That story resonates with me because it was my family in the 60s. My dad had found our dream home, not far from where I live now. Had acreage, we planned on having horses. We were to meet with the realtor, so we show up to meet with the realtor. And the realtor had been talking to my dad for weeks. And upon arrival, in our little bronze station wagon with a lot of little bronze faces, the realtor, my dad gets out and he's very proud. And he extends his hand and he says, "Hi, I'm Joe Long." Well, the realtor is hesitating. She looks at him and she starts stammering. "You're Mr. Long?" And he says, "Yes," very proudly, I'm Joe Long. "I'm here to see the house, my wife and I." Well, the little bronze children had to stay in the car, okay? We couldn't get out because Dad and Mom decided there's too many of us and we're not going to go in. So they go in, they come out. The realtor immediately begins to tell Dad that there's an offer in on that house. And it's no longer available. And my dad said, "Are you sure about that?" Well, the realtor says, "Let me check. I'll check, but I'm pretty sure, Mr. Long, that house is gone. But there's a nice home in the city that you and your family would really be happy at. I'd be happy to show that to you." So bottom line, we were denied that home. Did that make my parents bitter? No, it didn't. Did they teach hatred after that happened? No, they didn't. My dad told us. My mom was bitter initially. My dad educated her as well and said, we're not going to teach hatred to our children. This is not the way that we do it. And one day, maybe they will be able to live where they want to live. And that is my hope and my dream for that to happen. So I want you to think about whether or not, after that speech, that March on Washington, that nonviolent March on Washington, and Dr. King's now famous speech, "I have a dream," have we realized the dream 50 years later? Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.